Larry represents the exit strategy I always envisioned for myself, just walking away from the game and escaping the spotlight completely. You barely see Larry these days. I believe that was a conscious choice he made back in Indiana to just be cool with the silence, which is not a bad thing at all. I respect that. I genuinely admire him for having the discipline to do that. However, Michael Jordan just dropped a bombshell regarding Larry Bird and LeBron James that the internet simply cannot stop obsessing over. It only took one sentence for the undisputed greatest of all time to shut down a debate that has been raging for years. He avoided naming names directly, but everyone tuning in knew exactly who he was targeting and exactly what he meant. After hearing what heavy hitters like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Gary Payton, Kobe Bryant, and other legends have stated about Larry Legend, do you honestly believe LeBron James can hang in that same conversation? Smash that like button and drop your unfiltered take in the comments below. Enjoy retirement, my brother. You guys definitely gave us a run for our money back in the day. Peace. I will see you around. All right, take it easy. Thanks. And hey, work on that golf swing of yours. Now, let's dissect that quote because every part of this debate flows from it. His airness stated that one player was feared by legends, while he simply did not have much to say about the other. That is it. That is the entire statement. If you know anything about Michael Jordan, you know the man does not speak casually or make accidental slips. Every single word is calculated. Every opinion he voices publicly has been filtered through the most competitive brain the sport has ever seen. When Jordan says he has nothing to say about a player, that is not a neutral stance. That is a total dismissal coming from the one man whose perspective on basketball greatness holds more weight than anyone else alive. The monster he feared was Larry Bird. The player he brushed aside was LeBron James. And with that single sentence, Jordan arguably ended a narrative that has dominated sports television and social media for the better part of 2 decades. Before we go deeper, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, regarding the trash talk, I want people to engage with me because it is what it is. I do not hold grudges. I do not catch feelings about it. It actually fuels me to play better. You know what I mean? If you tell me you were with my mother last night, I'm going to tell you I was with your wife. Oh, you forgot she didn't call. KU for a while. You understand me? She got home at 2:30 in the morning. Now you are mad at me because I know your business. Do you feel what I am saying? That is how we talked. Let me tell you all something about Bird. He would tell me straight up, look here, man, I am going to drain this. Jumper right in your face from that corner, and it is going to be your Christmas present. I am going to wrap it up and crack your head open. He was the coldest player I have ever seen. Everyone talks about these top tier greats, but they sometimes leave him out of the mix. He was the truth, man. He would give you buckets any way he wanted to. Absolutely any way. Larry Bird was ice cold. But to fully grasp why Jordan said what he said, you have to contextualize the era Larry Bird actually dominated. The NBA of the 80s and the NBA of today are completely different sports. They share a name, a ball, and a hoop. But everything else is Xavier. McDaniel shared a story on a podcast about Larry talking to him, flat out saying, I am the best, right before dropping a three-pointer in his face. That is a fact. It is absolutely true. But the NBA in the 80s was physically brutal in a way that this current generation of fans has never experienced while watching basketball. Hand checking was legal, meaning defenders could place their hands on offensive players to push, grab, and steer them all the way up the court. Hard fouls were not just tolerated, they were tactical. If you drove the lane in the 80s, you were accepting the physical punishment that was waiting for your body when you arrived. Bill Laimbeer was not an anomaly. He was a standard feature. The Bad Boy Pistons didn't invent violence. They just perfected a style that was already standard across the league. When asked if he considered himself a trash talker, Bird played it cool. Not really, coach. A lot of guys do it to demean people. I just did it for the fun of it most of the time. He shared a story about standing next to Elvin Hayes at center court during his rookie year. He loved Elvin, but he stood there stirring the pot. He said, Elvin, you see Kevin McHale over there? He is talking trash about you. Elvin asked what he was saying. Bird turned to McHale and said, Kevin, tell him what you told me. Kevin was confused and asked, "What is that?" Bird replied that you are going to kick his butt tonight. Kevin, being a rookie, tried to apologize, saying, "Hey, Elvin, I didn't say that. It was just rookie stuff like that. It wasn't actually vicious." Me and Charles Barkley used to get into it a little bit, but I really like Chuck, and he knew I enjoyed the banter. You want to talk about psychological warfare? We aren't just talking about hoops. We're talking about verbal assault. The classic story is when he looked right at Chuck Person and said, "I am planting my feet right here, directly in front of your bench. I am launching it from this exact spot, and it is hitting nothing but net." He drained it, turned around, and said, "Merry Christmas, Chuck." Back in the 80s, load management wasn't even in the dictionary. If you had a pulse, you laced them up. If you could drag yourself to the charity stripe, you took your shots. The concept that a superstar would rest during the regular season just to preserve his body for the playoffs, that would have been branded as straight up cowardice in every locker room of that era. We have to wrap this up. Clock is ticking. 14 seconds. This is the money ball. Yes! Larry Legend beats the buzzer with the 2-point dagger. 17-15. He defends the crown in front of a deafening Chicago Stadium crowd. That is your champion, Larry Bird. You showed up. You battled. That was the bare minimum requirement. There was absolutely no debate about it. Bird dominated that world, playing with a back that should have forced him into retirement years earlier. The man had bone spurs digging into both heels that needed surgery. He battled chronic spinal issues that eventually ended his run. These are injuries that, in today's game, would trigger a novel-length injury report and weeks of sitting on the sidelines. But Bird, he suited up, kept his mouth shut about the agony, and still dropped 30 points on your head while his body was literally crumbling beneath him. If you love that kind of old school grit, smash that like button right now. That toughness is why Michael Jordan was terrified of Larry Bird. It wasn't the stats or the jewelry, it was that psychotic willingness to compete, despite physical ruin, without ever begging for pity or special treatment. Jordan worshipped sacrifice because his entire game was built on it. And in Larry, he saw a mirror image who might have even set the bar higher. Now, before we weigh him against LeBron, let's look at what Bird actually constructed, because that resume, it needs a deep dive. Bird came out of French Lick, Indiana, a place so tiny that calling it a town is a compliment. He wasn't some hype machine. Product. No national TV cameras were chasing him around high school gyms. There was no documentary dubbing him the chosen one. This was a kid who poured concrete and played ball with a ferocity that eventually dragged Indiana State University all the way to the 1979 title game against Magic Johnson and Michigan State. It became the most viewed college hoops showdown in history. By the way, if you are new here, hit subscribe to catch more legendary stories like this. That rivalry with Magic, it literally rescued the NBA. The league was drowning financially in the late 70s. TV ratings were tanking, public interest was evaporating. Then, Bird and Magic stepped onto the hardwood together. Within 2 years, the entire pro basketball map had shifted. Their beef was the rocket fuel that launched the NBA into the global powerhouse we see today. Bird signed with the Boston Celtics, and in his rookie year, the team won 32 more games. 32! That isn't just helping a good squad. That is a single player revolutionizing a franchise overnight through sheer force of personality and will. 3 MVPs, 3 rings, 12 All-Star nods, Rookie of the Year, 2 Finals MVPs, all packed into 13 seasons. Not 20, 13. And halfway through that run, everyone knew one thing about matching up with Larry Legend. It wasn't going to be fun. It wasn't going to be polite. And you were definitely going to get an earful about every mistake you made while he was busy torching you. Gary Payton is arguably the king of smack talk. He spent his whole career living inside opponents' heads pregame, midgame, postgame. And even Payton admitted on the All the Smoke podcast that Larry Bird was the absolute coldest talker he ever faced. Not because Larry talked the most, but because he told you exactly what was about to go down. And then he executed it. He killed the suspense. He stripped away the surprise. He would tell you the shot was coming, tell you which way he would step to get open, and then drain it right in your mug while you stood there helpless to change the outcome. Shawn Kemp, back in his rookie year, had Bird tell him before tip-off, that it was going to be a long night. Bird lit him up for 40. Kemp said that beatdown changed his entire mental approach to basketball forever. A 40-year-old man with a crumbling spine in the second to last season of his life mentally broke a young athletic freak of nature so badly that the rookie admitted it altered his DNA. Dennis Rodman tried to suffocate Bird on defense, and Larry just kept screaming at the Pistons coach, demanding he put someone on the floor who actually knew how to play defense. The tighter Rodman squeezed, the more Bird. The more buckets he dropped, the louder he chirped about being left wide open. That isn't just swagger. That is a unique brand of mental domination that practically no one else in history could pull off. Take Kobe Bryant, arguably the most dedicated scholar the game has ever seen. He didn't just watch Larry Bird. He analyzed his footwork, his angles, and his timing like it was scripture. Kobe famously noted that Bird was always one step ahead in his head. For a guy with Kobe's basketball IQ to point out another player's brain as the defining X factor, that is not some throwaway praise. That is a genius, recognizing a higher level of genius. Then you have Magic Johnson, who called Bird his ultimate adversary, the single guy who could outsmart and outwork him any night of the week. These two legends owned on the 80s. And when Magic looked back at everyone he faced, he pointed to Bird as the one who drove him the hardest. Before we dive into the cold hard stats, and trust me, this is where LeBron fans usually get loud, so make sure you smash that like button and subscribe for more real talk. Let's break it down honestly. Bird pulled down 10 boards a game for his career. LeBron, he is sitting at just over 7. And remember, Bird was grabbing those rebounds against Titans like Moses Malone, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Robert Parrish, and the round mound of rebound himself, Charles Barkley. LeBron's numbers are solid for a wing, sure, but the physical landscape is totally different. Now look at the stripe. Bird was an 88.6% career free throw shooter. LeBron hovers around 73%. We are talking about the most controlled, repeatable shot in the sport, and that is a massive gap. It doesn't shrink over time either. In fact, in crunch time, when the game is on the line, that disparity gets even uglier. Bird shot roughly 50% from the floor, nearly 38% from deep, and almost 90% from the line. He was putting up 50-40-90 splits before we even knew what to call it. LeBron has never cracked 90% from the stripe in a single season. Plus, he has never even stepped foot in the three-point shootout, despite playing in a league that worships the long ball more than ever before. Meanwhile, Larry Legend won that contest 3 years, running 1986, 87, and 88. The story goes, he walked into the locker room before the first one, eyed up the competition, and asked who was planning on coming in second. Then he walked out there and took the trophy without even taking off his warm-up gear for the final round. That isn't just cockiness. That is precision. The playoff data backs it all up. Per 36 minutes in the postseason, Bird was giving you 24 points, 10 boards, and 6 dimes. Those stats weren't padded by pace or weak defenses. They were rock solid, and they actually got better when backs were against the wall in elimination games. Yes, LeBron has played more seasons. His counting stats are massive, but piling up numbers over 20 years in a high-tempo, high-scoring league that protects the shooter is not the same as efficiency stats forged in 13 seasons of a physical war zone, where you had to bleed for every bucket. Michael Jordan's take really sums it up. One of these guys was a nightmare for fellow legends. Go down the list of the all-time greats and ask them about the hick from French Lick. You hear the same story. It is respect, sure, but laced with fear. The fear of going up against a guy who is so mentally locked in, he beats you in ways you didn't even see coming. Ask those same OGs about LeBron, and the vibe changes. They call him talented, they call him a force. But that fear factor, the thing MJ explicitly mentioned regarding Bird, is noticeably missing from the conversation. The reason is straightforward. Bird dominated in an era where nothing was free. LeBron's dominance, while impressive, happened in a league tailored to help stars shine, boosting offense and extending careers through load management and modern science. Jordan saw it all. He battled Bird in the trenches. He watched LeBron from the owner's box. And his verdict was a single, crystal clear sentence. No sugarcoating. One man was feared by the gods of the game. The other, not much to say. The debate is wrapped up. MJ said it, Magic signed off on it, Kobe learned from it, Gary Payton was terrified of it. The best to ever lace them up all point to one man when asked who they truly respected and feared. The math supports it, and the history proves it. If you agree with Jordan's take, crush that like button and hit subscribe right now for more basketball truth bombs.